This is a presentation highlighting some of the pumps that are appropriate for residential use and how to assemble and use a pump for a flooded basement. This presentation is brought to you by the Leominster Office of Emergency Management, located at 37 Carter Street. Here in New England, we are used to various kinds of weather: heavy snowfall, ice storms, torrential rain, and flooding. As a result, many residents experience water in their basement. It is important to remove the water as soon as possible because of potential damage to the building structure, drywall for finished basements, stored equipment, and personal belongings, not to mention the dreaded growth of mold. Replacement of a furnace or washer and dryer can add to these costly conditions. The Leominster Office of Emergency Management, commonly referred to as the OEM, assists residents during emergencies. The support services are staffed by volunteers, like you and me, who want to give back to the community by helping out when and where we can. We are not first responders. We are here to support first responders and residents during emergency situations. The City of Leominster funds the OEM to purchase supplies and equipment for use during emergencies. This enables us to purchase pump kits and supporting equipment. When the OEM receives a call regarding a flooded basement, we do our best to respond as quickly as possible. However, we must prioritize calls based on the severity, the number of calls received, and the number of volunteers available. An option for you is to come to the OEM at Carter Street to borrow a pump kit and pump the water out yourself. If needed, we now have a CD explaining how to properly use one of our pump kits. If you experience water in your basement repeatedly, you may want to consider purchasing a pump. During standard business hours, the OEM is available to assist you in determining what type and size pump you should consider, as well as some of the local retailers where pump equipment can be purchased. To help prevent or slow the process of water flooding your basement, the Leominster OEM also provides sandbags. These can be effective when placed at the source of the flooding, your driveway, your yard, etc. Oh, and a tip for limiting water damage to personal belongings stored in your basement: keep all articles off the floor. Pallets, boards, plastic containers are some useful preventive maintenance tools. This video consists of two sections. In the first section, Dick Govin, Assistant Director of Operations at the OEM, explains several pump options that are available in our marketplace today. These pumps are appropriate for residential use. Assisting Dick is Carl Sanabria, Sergeant of Communications. In the second section of the video, some of the OEM volunteers are simulating a flooded basement and demonstrating how to set up and pump a basement utilizing a pump kit from the OEM. Now let's view the first section. Here's Dick to explain pump options.
One of the most troubling things a homeowner can witness is to come home from a day of work or a day of shopping or whatever and find his basement full of water. We've experienced some flooding issues a few weeks ago, and we had multiple pump calls. And first thing that comes into your mind is, what do I do? One thing you don't want to do is to go downstairs and step into the water, because you don't know for sure if the water is affecting your electrical outlets, in which case you could get electrocuted. And some people, even though power may not be on, they have a habit of walking through the water barefoot. You don't want to do that either, because you don't know what is in the water for contaminants or what is on the floor of the basement. First thing you want to do, if you think the water is threatening your furnace, is to notify the fire department. They will send an engine over and check out your basement. If they need to shut the power off, they will. And then they will notify us to go over and pump out your basement. However, because all of our volunteers work full-time jobs as well during the day, the availability may be somewhat limited. So if you have 6 inches of water in your basement at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we can't get to you until 7 o'clock at night, that 6 inches becomes 18. The purpose of the presentation is to show the homeowners what is available for the different types of pumps that are on the market. The first type of pump that we want to show is one that will suck the water out of your basement right down to the floor, and that's the bottom feed geyser pump. The first pump we bought is a style Carl is showing you here. It's the bottom feed, and there's no difference between that pump or this pump except in the color, and that is metal, this is plastic. They both do exactly the same. When you get the pump at the store, you'll find it comes with an adapter that you can hook your garden hose to. Okay, the adapter is screwed into the top of the pump. The top of the pump has an 1.5 inch diameter threaded slot. So you can put the adapter in that and put the garden hose tied onto that, like so. Okay. And most people, that's what most homeowners will use, is their garden hose. All right, that's the bottom feed pump. Float pumps, and there are two types. This one is made by Liberty Pump. It has a float on it, so as the water level goes down to the point, it'll shut the pump off. So if you've got this pump running in your basement, you can go about your business, do what you need to do, and when the water level gets down to a certain point, the pump will shut off. The bottom feed pump will not. However, there is a pump on the market, and you can purchase one. It's a little bit more expensive than these, that does have a bottom feed capability and a float. So it will shut off by itself. The other type of float pump is a Flowtech. It's a little bit different in style, but it does basically the same thing, and this also has a float on it. So this would, and you can adjust the float as needed, the height of the water. The thing about these Flowtech pumps, that your water level will only go down to the bottom of your pump. So if you've got an 1.5 inch space to the floor, that's how much water you got to have left when you're done pumping, as opposed to this type. Unless you have a sump hole in the floor of your basement, where you can just drop your pump in there, and it'll go right down and suck the basement dry. What we've done is gone out and purchased adapters and additions to our pumps to allow us to get more volume pumped out of the basement. And what we do with those, we'll take that adapter that Carl has and screw that into the pump. And what that'll do is allow us to have more flow. And then we'll put the other piece on here, screw that onto that, and then we connect our 1.5 inch hoses to that. Now, for whatever reason, and I don't know what it is, that you can't go to one facility, one store, and get all the components. You can get the pump in one place, you can get these parts and pieces at another store, and the hoses at a third place. If you were interested in setting up a pump such as this, with this type of a hose, we'd like to come down and visit us, and we'll go over all of the parts, approximately how much they are. They're a little bit more now, of course, than they were a year ago, but just to give you a ballpark figure, if you set up a pumping system like this, as we have one, it probably will run a minimum around $200 to $250. Well, you think, boy, that's a lot of money for a pump. It is. But think how much money you would save by being able to control the flow of water in your basement, as opposed to losing, all your contents to the basement and part of the structure, because the water will affect your wallboard, paneling, or your rugs, or whatever else you have down in the basement. The second hose over there, you'll see it has a pipe at the end of it, a little piece of pipe, and what we do with those, we'll connect that pipe, that hose, to the end of this hose that's pumping. So if we need additional 40 feet of hose, or however long the hoses are, we can connect them with a hose clamp. The little container, little box we have right here, it's a very handy item, and just so happens to get a little bit of water over there. If this comes in contact with any water whatsoever on the floor, it'll sound off the alarm. Like that. So, it's a pretty handy item. Wipe off the bottom. That's probably a $10 item. That will send off a message to you that you have a water problem or a potential water problem in your basement. You want to put that probably near your furnace, because that would be the most important thing being affected. Or if you know where the water is coming into your basement, put it over on the floor in that area. So as soon as the water makes contact with that, the alarm will sound. The carrying kit that we have, it's a basic tote box that we picked up at Home Depot, and it carries all of the equipment that we use for the pump out of the basement. One pump, 2 lengths of hose, and the other containers over here. Very handy for us to handle. Homeowner probably won't really need to buy something like that because they're not going to be transporting the equipment, but it's a good box to store it in if you wanted to put it away, when you're not needing it. Over this area, these are other parts and pieces that we use in the pump kit. The extension cord. We also carry the adapter from a 3-prong to a 2-prong because there still are homes that only have 2-prong outlets. So we carry one of those in the kit, as well as the GFI protector, electrical protector, and a spring clamp that we would use to clamp on either to the rafter of the basement or a pipe somewhere, so that when we're running the electrical cord, we'll run it through the clamp so that the cord doesn't rest in the water at all. And a screwdriver to tighten the hose clamps onto the hose. Now, in the event you have a dirt floor, and a lot of older homes do have dirt cellars, and in the dirt down there is all a mixture of all kinds of stuff, papers or whatever. If you have that kind of situation and you want to pump out your basement, what you do is get a 5-gallon pail like this and drill a bunch of holes near the bottom of it. Drop your pump in the bucket. Okay, that way any debris will get caught on the outside of the bucket. It won't get caught into the bottom of your pump and clog it up. If the pumps do get clogged with debris and keep working, they will burn out. So that's very important. What about if there's no electricity to my house? When you call us, you let us know, and we'll bring a generator, and we'll run the electric pump with the generator. There are larger pumps that we use depending on the depth of water, but right now we're primarily trying to give you an idea of what you can get to pump out your basement. If you have feet of water in your basement, then we need to bring a larger Honda pumps, and then we can take care of that. But if you have a problem with the water during the day, I'm sure you really don't want to wait till somebody shows up at night. So this is the idea of the presentation, to show you what is available. In the event that you have more water coming into your basement than you can handle, then you can feel free to call us. A lot of people do say, well, I got a pump working, but it's not handling it. So we will bring a second pump. The pumps that we do lend out, we ask that they be returned in about 48 hours from being loaned. The reason for that is when you figure how many thousands of homes there are in Leominster, and we only have about 15 pumps. So a lot of people need our services, and we're limited to how many pumps we have. So after 48 hours, if you're going to have a continual problem, or you have a repetitive problem with water, every time it rains heavy, I get water in the basement, it's time to look into investing in a pump of your own, and you can take care of your own problem. Once the water gets down to a certain level, and you're going to mop up the rest of it with a wet vac, and we'll show a wet vac later on in the program. You suck up the water, and now you got a wet vac full of water. Well, now I got to carry it up the cellar stairs. How do I get it outside? You simply drop your pump in the wet vac and pump out of that. So it's pretty simple. One thing you need to be very cautious of, especially with the heavy rain, is sewage. Okay, if there happens to be a sewage problem or sewage backup, we do not pump sewage with these pumps. If that's a situation, then we have to notify the DPW, and they will come over with the heavy equipment that they have, and they will take care of the problem. What you never, ever want to do is pump into any kind of water into your basement sink, tub, shower, whatever. That is illegal. You need to pump it outside. When you do pump it outside, you need to be aware of where water is going to be going to. Obviously, you don't want to pump it into your neighbor's yard, because you won't be a friendly neighbor for long. You want to pump it, if you can get it to the street, pump it to the street, let it go down the gutter and into the catch basin down there. Wintertime, a lot of people have told us in the wintertime we need to shovel out our fire hydrants. Well, we also need to shovel out storm drains and make sure they're accessible, because water hits a storm drain that's clogged, it's got to keep on going, and it's got to find some spot to go. So you have to be careful with that, as well as you don't want to pump your water out into the street in the wintertime to cause an icing situation. So you got to be kind of cautious as to where the water's going to go. Plus, best place for it to go is put it out in the backyard, let it go where it's got to go into the yard, and hopefully it'll seep into the ground. That's probably about it for this part of the program. We're going to be showing you a demonstration later on in an actual basement as to how it's set up and how the homeowner will set up the pump and pump out the basement.
Hi.
Hi,
How can we help you?
I'm Jean Hudson. I live here in Leominster. I have some water in my basement.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
Okay, well, we'll need to get some information from you, okay?
All right, sure.
Sure, where's the water?
It's in my basement.
Okay. How about, how deep is it?
Oh, I would say about that deep.
Inch or two? Okay, a couple inches. Have you called the fire department?
No.
No?
I
Okay.
came down here. I saw it on LATV that you people have pump kits available.
We sure do, thanks, I appreciate that. Is there a sump pump available in the basement now?
No,
How about any appliances in the water?
no, there's no appliances down there.
Have the utilities been shut off already?
No, maybe I should have done
I
that.
think, yeah, we need to take a look at that. Do you have exterior access to your cellar?
Yes, we do.
You do, okay. And how about an electrical outlet in the basement, is that available?
Yes, I do, right by the furnace, as a matter of fact.
Excellent, thanks. We're gonna have somebody come out with a pump kit for you, okay?
Oh, perfect. Is this very difficult?
No,
I
it's-
could do this myself.
It's really easy, we'll show you how to do everything, no problems.
Do I need to buy anything to adapt to the pump, or? is
No,
it-
we have a pump kit ready to go for you,
Oh, perfect.
okay?
Thank you.
We'll be right over, thanks.
Hi, I'm Jean Hudson, one of the deputy directors from the Leominster Emergency Management Office. And as you know, we're here today, we're going to simulate how to pump a basement. And with me today is Carl. Carl, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Carl Santabria. I'm one of the sergeants with the Rescue Support Unit, and one of our primary functions is pumping out flooded basements. We're going to do a simulation down here in Gene's basement today to show you how that's done.
And as you have already seen, Dick talked you through a number of the pumps themselves in general. We do have a pump kit that came today, so we simulated the fact that I'm a homeowner and I have a flooded basement. I went down to the emergency management office to obtain a pump. Pump kit is here. The first thing we want to do, obviously, is to unload the pump kit. And one of the reasons that I'm doing this, quite frankly, is to show you how easy this is to pump your basement. doing this, Carl, perhaps you can talk about some of the safety features.
Sure. So first off, what you want to do is you want to make sure you're wearing the proper clothing, as Dick mentioned earlier. If you go into a flooded basement, make sure you're wearing preferably rubber boots if you can get them. Make sure you're wearing gloves, because you never know what might be floating around in your basement. You never know where the water coming into your basement has come from. It may have chemicals in it, may have road salt in it, so you want to make sure you protect yourself from anything that may be in the water. You ready to connect? Or?
I believe so. So we have the kit unpacked now, and obviously some of the things you need to determine before you even get to this point is where you're going to position the pump. A lot depends on, number one, where your electrical source is. And Dick did talk to you this morning about, should you not have electricity, that they would bring a generator for you. We happen to have a hookup right here for the electrical. And the other thing you need to take into consideration is where you're going to pump the water to. And Carl, would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Sure, you want to make sure you pump, first of all, you want to make sure you pump the water as far away from your house as possible. But you want to make sure you're not pumping it into your neighbor's backyard. As Dick mentioned earlier, that would make him pretty unhappy. So you want to try to pump it into the road if you can, or a catch basin if there's one near your house. And it's pretty important to make sure you keep those free of ice and snow and leaves in the fall. Because if you do have a water problem, that's where you need to get the water to go, rather than into your backyard or into the neighbor's backyard.
And obviously you want to know where the water is coming in from, because that's a determination also. You don't want to be pumping out where the water is coming in. That would be defeating the purpose. All right, the first part in setting up the electrical part of this is we're going to plug in the GFI into an electrical outlet in the basement. If you don't have one in your basement, you can run extension cords upstairs. Is that correct, Carl? And if so, what are the safety factors involved there? And why do we use a GFI?
You want to try to plug the pump into your nearest electrical outlet. Make sure the cord is kept as high off the floor as possible. We're using a rafter clamp in this case. We have it clamped to the floor joist, but if you have washing machines you can lay it on, or shelves you can lay it on, just to keep it up above the water level. The GFI is used as it's a circuit breaker, so if the cord comes in contact with water, the power will shut off. Basically, you want to use an outdoor rated extension cord for this purpose.
And the pump kit comes with the GFI and
The
an appropriate
cord.
extension cord
Right.
when you get one from the emergency management office. So now I'm going to plug into an outlet. And then the pump actually gets plugged into the other end of the GFI. Oh, it's going to start over here.
Yeah.
Which Carl said we've already run. We want to make sure again that this does not touch the water. So in this case, we're just going to hang it like this.
Now the next step in the process is we're going to connect, this is the discharge hose for the pump. So we're going to connect this to the end of the pump.
So the first thing you would do is open up both clamps, put the hose in, and then close the clamps. It's very, very simple.
So we're going to take the discharge hose and run it up the bulkhead stairs to get it as
Holding the pump here, and the reason I'm holding it is because it's very easy when the discharge hose is being moved, the pump might fall over. And although that would not create a safety issue, we would still just not want it to happen. And Dick, perhaps you could step over here for a minute and talk about, what if you don't have a walkout basement? What are some other options there are for you to run the hose out of your basement?
If you don't have a bulkhead or a walkout basement, you can also go through the cellar window. Most every cellar has a windows, so there's gonna be some kind of outside source. So you'd have to just open a window. Some of the windows will have arms on them and little studs on the windows. You might have to line those up with the holes in the arms and just slide it right out. They were installed, so they won't come out. You just run your hose out that way. As far as the pump being solid, if you've got something in your basement you can put up against the pump just to make sure it doesn't fall over if you do tug on the hose. But you also want to make sure that you have all the kinks out, the twist and turn, so that when you get the water flow, it'll flow freely without any obstructions.
Go then, Melissa.
Sometimes when you have a flow of water going through and you're going up a stairway like that, you get the top step of the bulkhead, your hose may crimp. You may not get the full. You may get a little bit of trickle out of the hose. What you can do is take a pail, like that one right there, and put it at the top of the step and run your hose over the pail. Okay, so now you won't have that crimp in the hose. All right? And while I've got the pail in my hand, if you do happen to have a dirt floor basement, we had talked about it earlier, you take a pail like that, put holes in it, and just put the pail in the water and then let the water get into the bucket. Okay? And as you're pumping, you can pump right out of there. That will prevent any debris of any kind to clog up the pump.
That's a very good point, Dick. Also, at what point do you want to keep this electrical hose out of the water when you put it into the pail?
It really doesn't matter because you still got to get, it's still going to run regardless. I mean, it's not sucking air, it's not going to be clogged. So if you have to put it in the pail, just take it out and put it right in the pail. It won't hurt anything.
Oh, so it doesn't matter if this gets wet up here?
No.
Okay.
No, as long as your plug connected. Okay. Now, because this is a concrete floor basement, this is fine. If you have carpeting, even scatter rugs, and they get wet, you need to remove them from your basement. A lot of people say, well, I'll just wet back it and then dry it out, it'll be fine. It won't be. Mold and mildew will get into those carpets and rugs, and you could get sick and make your family sick as well. So the best thing to do is just remove them and replace them. Okay. Okay, if you need another extension of hose, all kits will have a second hose in it with a connector pipe like that. Just put the end of that hose onto here, put a hose clamp on it, tighten it up, and you're good to go. This particular length is about 40 feet, so it'll give you 80 feet of, which should be more than enough. Okay.
All right, so now we're all set up. We're just going to plug the pump in, and there is not an on and off switch, so as soon as I plug in the pump, it will start working. Now you notice for us, because we're doing this in simulation, that we have a hose here that is going to be filling up the pan as we pump, just to make sure that we have a continuous flow of water and the pump doesn't burn out. And that's basically how easy it is. Hose is filling up. So I just saw Carl had to fix a crimp that was in the hose. And sometimes you may have to watch your hose to make sure that crinking hasn't happened. The first time around, obviously watch your hose all the way up to your end point to make sure that it actually is pumping out to where the area of where you designated that you want the water to go to. And this is how simple it is. It'll get to a point where, with this particular pump that we're using, which I believe is the bottom feed pump, that there'll be some water left on the basement floor.
Just a little bit. You'll hear it when it stops sucking water. You hear a gurgling sound. That means if you start to suck air, you're just about done. And they should take up 99% of the water in your basement. If you've got a little pockets here and there, you may want to wet back that up or whatever. But for the most part, this will take the water level right now. You can hear that sound when you get close. It's up there. And that's pretty much it. So you disconnect the cord.
Again, being careful not to, there may be a little bit of water left on
Yeah,
the
you
floor.
get a little
Careful.
bit of backlash.
So now what we have to do is just disassemble the pump, put it back into the kit that it came in. And again, depending upon what your conditions are, wipe it down a little bit, put it back in the kit. And again, as Dick mentioned earlier, we would like to have the kits back as soon as possible so that other people will be able to borrow them to pump with. And also make sure you always call the office first to make sure someone's there to accept the pump back.
When you do disconnect the hose, in order to get all the water out of it, it's a good idea to walk that out. Carl, walk it out. You go, sometimes we just throw it over our shoulder so that all the water will drain out of the hose. Okay, so once you do roll it, there won't be any more water left in it. Okay, and once your hoses are rolled up and you're ready to pack it back up, inside of the lid, you see a listing of what is in the pump kit, so that you make sure that everything you got goes back. So it's very easy to follow. Okay, it's a checklist.
Right, because obviously you would not want to come down and get a kit, take it home, and have it missing a part that you need. That's inconvenient and it's maddening.
Nor do we have to get a kit back and find, well, the cord's not there, do we have to call the homeowner again and track that down. So in the event that for some reason you can't bring the pump kit back when it's due, just give us a call. Someone will be glad to come over and pick it up from you.
So now you saw how easy it is to pump a basement. Obviously, it'll take you longer to pump your basement than it did what we simulated here. Should you have any questions about pump operations, by all means, give us a call at the Emergency Management Office, 978-534-7580 during normal business hours, and we will be able to answer your questions for you. Thank you.